So, the two together, the triple rebirth of the sun and the sacred tree, the special, unique configuration of the sacred tree on the winter solstice of 2012, in my opinion, is the reason why the Maya picked that exact day. Any questions so far? This is a good place to ask for any clarifications. Over here?
What is unique about that day? In other words, a day following and the day before, wouldn't those planets be in the same relative position?
We're going to take a look at that. If you can hang on. Anything else in the back?
Where's the Earth?
You're standing on it. Remember I said you're standing on the Earth and you're looking up at the sun at high noon on the winter solstice of 2012. And this is what you see in the sky over you.
So this is like the time down in Mexico.
They're in Central Time.
Okay. Did I understand you correctly that this exact same thing happened 2,000 years ago?
Not with the planet configuration, but the sun sweeping through here at that time of the winter solstice. It did it 26,000 years ago, and it'll do it in 26,000 more. If you want to look at astronomy, depending on how much detail you look at, you can always find something that says, oh, well, that's different. Because our solar system itself is traveling around the middle of the galaxy. And this takes 240 million years. So that's going to move a little bit. So you can say, gotcha, it's different, it's unique, you know. So I like to jump up and down and say everything is unique, even though there are cycles. We know there are cycles. The sun rose yesterday and the sun is rising today. But it's not the same day, and your experience is different. So that's an interesting balance between those two things. Okay. This is, some of you, how many of you have actually been in ideal viewing situations where you've looked up and you've seen the center of the Milky Way? That's pretty good. I can't say that I have really noticed it with this distinct of a dark rift. And this center region was used for this, one of the oldest symbols we know, the Ouroboros, which is a Greek word, but the symbol itself goes probably back deeper into Egypt. And this region is what we're talking about, where the dark rift is. The head is eating the tail. You can imagine that. And so it's the symbol of recycle, again, rebirth. And then there is an exact astronomical thing called the galactic equator, which John Major Jenkins focused on. And it goes right down very near the dark rift. I mean, the dark rift is irregularly shaped, so you can't easily say, this is the middle, and this is not the middle, you know. But we're not going to talk about that too much. We would like to get to the driving question behind the creation of the long count calendar. We've pretty much gone through most of that because it's the triple rebirth of the sun. And so this is just showing it without any of the markings. Once a year, it goes through the same exact path. Every year, it goes the same path. So if you've heard that it's going to come closer to the center of the galaxy in 2012, then it's nonsense. They're trying to state John Major Jenkins' galactic alignment, and they're missing some critical points, and so it becomes very confusing. But we're not confused here, are we? Right? Now, here's something we haven't yet talked about. Hundreds of years the sun will be in the middle of the dark rift, and you'll have that triple rebirth of the sun. But why did they pick 2012? Well, I think it's because of the sacred tree. I told you that the sun goes through that area, right? That the sun, every year, it goes through that region. This is why. The dark rift is up at the top, and imagine it being really far away, okay? And the Earth just simply goes around and around and around. And what's easy about the astronomy of the triple rebirth of the sun is that you only have to pay attention to the motion of the Earth. The Earth has three motions that we're going to concern ourselves with. It spins on its axis once a day, it orbits the sun once a year, and it wobbles on its axis once every 26,000 years. Those three motions of the Earth combine in such a way to bring us to triple rebirth of the sun. So you can see that every year the Earth gets to a spot where you can draw a line through it. Remember, nothing else moves, only the Earth is moving. Okay, so it moves around, but then once a year, boom, it gets in the right spot. Does that make sense? And here it is kind of zoomed in. we're going to have the Earth's orbital motion. So on one day, the Earth is going to be here. And if we look straight at the dark rift, the sun is to the right. The next day, the Earth has moved in its orbit. Nothing else has moved. And now, you draw the line and it goes straight to the middle of the dark rift. And the next day, the Earth has moved a little more, and you draw a straight line, because you're on the Earth and you're looking right here. And so you would see the sun to your left. So as the Earth moves to the right, it creates the visual illusion that the sun is moving. The sun is not moving. The Earth is moving. But the sun will appear to move. Now let's take a look at what the screenshots are. You asked about this, I believe. December 20th, 2012, at high noon from Azapa. We see that the sun is towards the right part of the dark rift. The next day, this is the winter solstice. And it's also the galactic rebirth with the sun in the middle of the dark rift. And the next day. So, if the Maya calendar had an error of one day, if they're trying to hit the winter solstice, and they went one day early, it would not be the winter solstice, and the sun would not be in the middle of the dark rift. If they went one day late, it would not be the winter solstice, and the sun would not be in the middle of the dark rift. So, is this a coincidence? I don't think so. The reason why I don't think so is because the motif of the triple rebirth of the sun is carved in stone and put in their sacred ceremonial grounds. And they talk about the sacred tree an awful lot. So I don't think it's a coincidence. But let's just take a look at something. The overall length of the long count calendar is 5,125 years. But they started using it about 2,000 years ago. So they put it in place and they kind of said, well, we're not going to worry too much about the first 3,000. Let's just get going right here. It's very strange. Why? Well, the theory is, which is not my theory, it's John Major Jenkins' theory, is that it's going to end on a day that they consider is really important. And it doesn't really end. Almost all the other researchers use that word end. I like to use the word restart, because the calendar simply restarts. It's just like us, right? We don't worry that the calendar is ending on December 31st, right? I mean, it's not, God, my calendar, there's no more pages. No, same with them. So, now, here's something we should consider. We all know that the length of the year is about 365 and a quarter days, right? Let's suppose the Maya made a mistake of 1 minute. That's pretty darn good. But what would they get if they took that year and added 10 of them together? That 1 minute would accumulate into a 10-minute error. Does that make sense? Yeah. And after 100 years, a 100-minute error, and so forth. So after 2,000 years, it would accumulate to a 2,000-minute error. Now, all of you know off the top of your head that there are 1,440 minutes in a day. So they would definitely be on the wrong day if they had a 1-minute error. And when you crank the math, it's very simple math, you have a 45-second error allowed, or less, in the whole length of the year. This is like measuring the width of the United States to within 20 feet, or the distance from Los Angeles to Tokyo to within 40 feet. In terms of a percentage, it's 99.9999% correct. I mean, this is off the hook. When I did that calculation, first I found the triple rebirth of the sun. I practically fell out of my chair. It took me a while to get up the courage to do the math that I just told you, because I knew the answer was just going to be mind-boggling. So now I almost fell off my chair with the time going, it's a triple rebirth of the sun. It's a triple rebirth of the sun, and the mind, he didn't know the length of the year to within 45 seconds. But I couldn't figure out why they picked 2012. I could see the triple rebirth because I was so focused on the sun and the galactic equator and all this. And it wasn't until I backed up and I saw the whole thing that I saw, the sacred tree together with the triple rebirth of the sun. Those two things together is why the Maya picked 2012. That's my thesis. As far as I know, no one else is promoting that thesis, and I did come up with it on my own. Now, the sun is always moving constantly across that. And it looks to me like at 4:30 on that day from Izapa, the sun is exactly in the middle. It's very hard to say, where does the rift really start, I mean, it's so I just said to my eye, that's it. I would pick that as the galactic rebirth of the sun at 4:30 on that day. The winter solstice happens at 5:11 a.m. for Central Time, where the Maya live. And the sunrise is 6:30. So those are the three rebirths. So you see, they all fit within this 24-hour day. But more important than that, they also happen in the sky over the Maya. Like have you ever seen a full eclipse of the moon, right? Let's suppose it's midnight and there's a full moon up there, right? And you walk out there and the thing's getting eclipsed, and you pick up the phone and you call your friend in Rome and you go, hey man, go check out the moon. He goes, man, it's the middle of the day here, man, there's no moon. So when he comes around, be sure to check it out, right? Well, what happens? It shows up and he's like, it just looks normal to me, man. Because it's not for him. It was for you. It was for your part of the world. So it is with all of this. This is happening in the sky over the Maya. Well, what does that mean for the people on the other side of the world? It's happening at night. And that doesn't work so well with the triple rebirth metaphor, because the sun is said to be dead during the night. So you're not going to have a big party celebrating the rebirth of the sun while it's dead, right? So you have to find a year where it's in the birth canal when it's over the Maya. And also another thing to notice is that I keep calling it the winter solstice. Other people refer to it as the December solstice, which is a more correct astronomical term. Why? Because it is the December solstice for the whole world. It's the winter solstice only for the northern hemisphere. But the Maya live in the northern hemisphere, which is why I call it the winter solstice, because it underlines the rebirth metaphor. The summer solstice is not a rebirth. It's the maximum day, right? So it's the beginning of death, actually, So anyway, those are some of my thoughts. So the triple rebirth of the sun, as we explained here, are those three things: the daily sunrise, the yearly winter solstice, and the sun in the birth canal, all on the same day. And I simply refer to those as the daily rebirth, the solstice rebirth, and the galactic rebirth.